Hello, in this video we want to demonstrate how you could use the PumpCX platform with a continuous integration server as part of a build process. In this example, we're actually going to step through how we internally use Bamboo as our build server. And as an example, what we're going to do is we're going to actually make an update to the pump tool. And every time we do this and we commit the code, then as we check it into our source repository, our CI server, which happens to be Bamboo, the Atlassian product, detects this code has been checked in, does this via a webhook, so it's very quick, and then that starts a build process. Our build process is fairly simple. Our build server checks out the code, builds it using an ant. It's an ant script, so executes the ant script to build it, which creates a WAR file. Our plan then copies this WAR file onto our bleeding edge server, which actually happens to be online, and then executes a pump test case to ensure that the built WAR file correctly operates. Now this pump test case is fairly simple. It executes against our in-house Genesis platform and just runs a few simple test cases, which is a test set we've seen quite a few times before, which is the examples combined test set. So if we look in our Genesis environment, under test sets, we'll see test set number 13. That's the test we're going to execute now. So when we do that, we can say 13 is there. And remember that number because we'll come back to it shortly. If we run across and look in our Bamboo environment, what do we see? We see a number of projects, but the one we're interested in today is the Pump project. So this is the main web application within Pump. If we look at this, we can see that we've had quite a few successful builds lately, except for 29, which failed due to a compilation error. And if we go and look at, well, what does this plan look like? I've got a compile step, pretty straightforward. This checks out the source code and then calls our ant build script to output the WAR file. The next part of the plan was to deploy it to our NGI environment, which is our bleeding edge environment. So we basically download the WAR file, which was created in the previous step, and then we copy that up to the server using SCP, and then we massage the WAR file into place using some SSH operations and wait for it to be deployed. Once it's deployed, then we go through the step which actually runs the pump test set. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now in this case we're executing on a Mac platform, so the script is quite Unixy, but we have scripts for Windows and Unix type platforms. In this case, what we're going to do is go in, ensure that the test reports directory is empty. Then using the published web API for Pump, we are going to call a HTTP put on this URL. And then, so what this essentially says is we're going to execute test set number 13, which as you may remember before, was the test set which we have here. And when we call this put command, it does two things. Firstly, it instructs Pump to start executing that test set, and secondly, it returns back the ID of the test run created. So this step here, dbid cat, is basically attempting to pull the result of running that put. So pulling back the ID into a variable, into a shell script variable. Then we enter a while loop, which is essentially waiting for this next GET request to return a positive result. And this GET request is actually attempting to pull back the JUnit result set from when we executed that test run. Once we successfully get back a result, then we exit this step, and within Bamboo, jump straight into the JUnit parser, which will go and look at that result set, pull it apart, and get the results. What we want to end up with is something like this, where we've had a successful compilation. We've then successfully managed to deploy this off to the NGI environment. And then we've successfully executed a test run with a total of 6 tests. And we can see they've all passed. If any fail, then we can see why they fail and get links straight off to the test run. And of course, we could actually go in and view the raw JUnit result file. Come back in, and in here we can see the sorts of results and information which is passed back from Pump back into the build server, and this is a JUnit result set. And one of the key things in here is a link off to the core. So if we grab one of these, we could execute that fetch, and we jump straight to the test into the core because we're already logged in to Pump in this session. If we're logged in, of course, we have to provide the username and password to log into Pump at the stage. So let us go off and try this and see how we go. So what we'll do is we'll open up our Pump environment. Let's make a very minor change to the Pump web application. So let's say edit DB schema, and just for a little bit of fun, we'll add a comment in. Set the version number. Then we will stage that and commit it. Commit it with a message. The message will be set version number comment, something trivial like that. And we will do a git push. Okay, so what this is doing is forcing that update up onto our server. Having done that, so the next thing we expect to happen is we expect to see the server get notified, Bamboo to detect that the Git repository has been updated. We can see that's actually just happened now while I was talking. We see something happening here. So let's jump in there, and we'll see that the Pump test case is executing. Build number 33. It's finished the build now. It's moving on to the deployment phase. So the deployment phase is where we copy the built WAR file up onto a bleeding edge environment, and then wait for the Tomcat to redeploy that WAR file. So this is expected to take around another minute. At the top we can see the recent builds, and this is the current one, 33, which is executing. Okay, it's moved on to stage test. So if we now jump across to our Pump screen, what we should see is that it's executing the test set, which is what we expect. This is running quite happily. 6 calls are running. So at this stage, our Pump script is every 5 seconds checking for a result. It's going to wait for this test set to complete before continuing. Let's jump back to Pump. We should still see it building. It thinks it's probably going to finish in around 10 seconds time based on the last number of builds it's done. Okay, and we can see these test cases tailing off now. 3 successful, 5 successful, 6 successful. And then we jump back to Pump, to Bamboo. In a few moments this will complete and load the JUnit result set and parse it and determine that the build was successful, and we're all green here. So if we jump into there, we see the compile was successful, the deployment was successful, the regression was successful. We could go in and look at the test cases, they were all passes. And if we jump back and look in our Pump environment, we see the 6 test cases successful. So this all matches up, and Bamboo being Bamboo, we could actually go in and look at the artifact, and we've got the built war file just there, but it's already deployed onto our server, as we'd want in any CI environment. So this shows you how you can hook up Bamboo, for example, with Pump. Now, you could hook up any of the CI servers in a very similar way. So we've got out-of-the-box scripts written for Jenkins, TeamCity, and Bamboo, running on both Windows and on Linux platforms, or Unix-like platforms, because the script changes slightly. So thanks a lot for your time. This is what we wanted to demonstrate in this video.